It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
And Vinny Hardy's here. Terry Brown up there in Iowa. I'm outside of Knoxville. Terry TB Brown, man, we here with the big March Madness Bash Spectacular. What do you want to call it? We got all kind of friends coming through later. How you doing this evening, man?
Yeah, we rocking and rolling, man. That's what you do. It's March Madness. It's all that kind of stuff. So I am ready to rock and roll. I know we got our first guest already in the green room or the blue room. It's March. It's Kentucky. It's the blue room. So,
it is.
There you go.
It is. The BS3 Network Blue Room. We got a friend of the show, and this episode and all others, I'll be on YouTube, but it'll be on your Roku devices, courtesy of the BS3 Network. Ben Sutter, Ivan Dawkins, and the whole crew invited us to be part of the network, and we're proud to be part of the network. If I'm not mistaken, he'll correct me if I'm wrong. I believe our next guest is part of the BS3 Network as well, if I got my information straight and getting old timers disease setting in. A friend of the show, he hosts the BossMan show. He's got archived interviews for days. A lot of these college coaches, every March Madness, man, this guy like really hits his grind. He's been on here with us before, real connected with the NBA, connected with college. Host the BossMan show, like I mentioned. Follow him on Twitter at JR The BossMan. It's scrolling. I got JR McHenry, JR The BossMan. What's going on, man?
Vinny, Terry, what is good, my good brothers? Happy March to you.
Appreciate
Yes, sir. It's good to have you as always, JR.
Yes,
you bring the truth.
The real Big Blue Tennessee State brothers. Remember that. Tennessee State Tigers, the real Big Blue, baby. The Big Blue Tigers of Tennessee State.
I got some family who went to Tennessee State, so I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Correcting us already.
Yeah, I'm part of BS3 too, brother. I'm with you guys as well, brother.
I thought so. I was like,
I'm family. I'm family.
Yeah. Well, man, it's like you roll up your sleeves this time of year, man. Like last year, we all know how Kentucky season ended, but look, we ain't got to revisit that. But you interviewed Coach Holloway in addition to several other coaches. You do work always, especially this time of year, man. I'm telling you, people go and just listen to your interviews, your archives. You get everybody on your show, man. So how's that been going for you this year, man? What's this?
Well, I got 15 coaches, which means they have some good luck. They have some good karma. Well, except for Brad Korn last night playing Steve Lutz. They both came on my show, so that was still BossMan show karma. I got Mike Rhodes at VCU coming on this week. Kenny Blakeney at Howard to watch out Bill Self. BossMan show karma is there with you already. And you know what I'm saying, man. I talked to Rob Senderoff at Kent State. BossMan show karma, and my man Mike Woodson is my first coach of Atlanta Hawks, so it's kind of hard, but Indiana did not make Woody available to me, so if they lose, you know what time of day it was. It was BossMan show karma. You know what I'm saying? Pat Kelsey is playing down against Orlando against South San Diego State. He got show karma. He's good to go. You know what I'm saying? So we got people come on the show, man. Kennesaw State, you saw that last week, Amir Abdul-Rahim came on the show. They got a good draw with Xavier. Sean Miller is a good dude, a friend of mine. But hey, he come on the show. Amir did. He had to show karma. So yes, I've done 15 interviews already for March Madness, which is maybe 15% of the field, maybe. Now I've already talked to the show. Now I talked to more of them. They advance. So NIT guys as well, brother.
Yeah, you've done more than CBS has done. They haven't talked to that many coaches.
Yeah, and they hosted it. Come on, my show I know what I'm talking about. Just coach, you do. I general crazy son. I get real deep with the coach. They know come on my show is no bias. It's all fun. Do it. Speak your truth, and we're gonna do it
every year, man. I respect it, man. That's always cool to listen to them. You got them on the BossMan show on your Twitter and all the links to it, man. So I always appreciate whoever makes themselves available to you. You're gonna get them, and and chop it up with them.
No doubt.
This season's been crazy. I mean, unranked teams beating ranked teams all season long. What's the tournament looking like through your eyes? How you see it playing out?
Man, I'm trying to do it as fair as I can, but I gotta tell you this, man. I want my man in Texas, Rodney Terry, to go far because they doing that man dirty. He need to get his extension. I mean, Chris Beard got fired, and the team got better. So I'm hoping he makes a run with Texas as well.
TB's cousin.
Okay, Rodney Terry, or Tony Terry too, the singers.
There you go. We didn't have to take it back to Tony Terry, but with you in the jam now.
Tony Terry, boy, yes indeed.
Middle school TB was on that mixtape. Man, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it, but
Hey, look here. Hey, look here. It's all good. I look here. Looking for Drake. He came on my show too. Darian DeVries. Miami, the big guy's injured. Drake defends like crazy. Could make a run. Now, Kelvin Sampson went crazy about this. Having to play Auburn and play to Birmingham. And Sasser's injured too. Without Sasser, a whole different team. And Bruce Pearl being close to home, he can make something happen there, man. And another undercurrent too, brothers, is like this, man. A lot of these coaches have deals elsewhere to go to other schools, which will be announced real soon.
Is Ed Cooley going to Georgetown? Kentucky plays them, and that's the rumor. Is Ed trying to go to DC?
Yes, he is. He's trying to go to DC. He is trying to go down to the town up on the hill. So I'm just predicting a stinker because his team knows what's going on.
He said it was a distraction. He just came out and said it was a distraction. Most of the time, they kind of coach speak around that kind of stuff. He said, "No, this has been a distraction." He didn't even mince words or try to hide it. So
and I'm kind of indifferent to it because Ed has been on my show, and Coach Cal don't have time according to Eric and Dale. So I'm indifferent to that matchup. I don't care who loses that matchup.
No boss man karma to dispense to either one of those guys.
But if K-State and Montana State, those are my friends. Jerome Tang and Dan Sprinkle. So whoever win that matchup, beat that matchup, Kentucky Providence for me. Get the snow karma.
Listen at you.
But now I do agree, JR. Now Drake is a very, very good team.
Yes,
and I've watched him play.
Too, Terry.
Do what?
Darian's up for some jobs too. He's interviewing.
Yeah, well, his son plays for him, Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a really, really good high school recruit that Drake just got because his dad was the coach. But I've got them at least getting out of that first round.
Yeah, Miami gonna lose that game because that big guy injured. I'll go with that, brother. I'm with you on that. I'm with you. Also, Louisiana coach Bob Marlin, good friend of mine, beat Rick Barnes because at Tennessee, this is what happens. We'll give you your assistant coach. Is that right? I can't get the head. I get an assistant coach, not the head coach. You will lose too. Boston Show karma. You will lose too.
I can get behind that one all day long now.
I'll take that up. Sign me up right there for that karma.
Me too.
Yes, you will lose. So shout out to Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Shout out to them.
I'm honorary member of their bandwagon if they'll have me for the next couple days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another matchup. Look at the 215 line, guys. UCLA and Asheville. Mike Burrell, another friend of mine. His teams compete like heck. Ever kid, he's a baller, man. If he gets going and give Mick Cronin and his team some trouble, I can guarantee you that.
And they got Jalen Clark out too.
Yeah, they're not healthy, are they? UCLA's not healthy.
No, they're not. Yeah. No, they're not. So, yeah, man, that's some matchups here, man. Colgate, Matt Langle, good dude. But you got to lose to my man right by my Terry, though. Right, got Terry. Got to keep Tong and Terry and Terry's boy got to keep on going.
Yeah, it's a big spring for Terry's family now. Big spring for Terry's family.
Indeed.
You're gonna put that out there. People gonna be believing that, man.
Well, most of the time, anytime it's something with a Terry, you jump on it, or a TB or a T Brown jersey.
If it's brown, then yeah.
But Mama
Okay.
B was that's the Mama B side of the family, right?
Mama B was a Terry. Yes,
That's
Terry
what
was her maiden name. That's
All right.
correct. That's
So
correct.
like the
Yeah, man,
like
hey,
Jason Terry, a distant cousin too, then, right?
Atlanta Hawk.
I'll take that, Jason Terry. Yeah.
You know,
I liked him with the Hawks. I couldn't stand him with the Mavericks. I hate the Mavericks.
join the club. Join the club, brother.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
As a Rockets fan, I can't ever get behind the Mavericks. Speaking of NBA, real quick too, because we got another guest coming up in about 10 minutes or so. But you so connected there. The Hawks parted ways with Nate McMillan, and Nate came in on an interim basis, and I still think the man's a good coach. To me, he was kind of that Joe Dumars aspect of Seattle, the quiet dude that played tough defense, a lot of big personalities, but he just kind of under the radar, but a great player, solid career. I thought he was a good coach, and then he comes in.
You know who didn't want him. You know who made that decision. Chico.
Your boy.
Chico the Bars did.
See,
all this time I hated you, Nate. You gotta go. Yeah, Chico the Bars. The Bars did that. Chico did that.
Y'all didn't know he was gonna get some 80s and 90s R&B on the show tonight. Tuned in for sports, but you're getting some jams up here.
That's a classic.
Yeah, Chico the Bars did that, bro. Chico did that. Or Latino.
I got you.
But
that's a shame.
But talking about the Hawks, the Hawks don't matter. Like they had that run in the playoffs.
The luckiest run ever, Terry.
Right. I mean, I think we talked about that one time you were on, and you said it was fool's gold then. And yea, verily, you don't even think about the Hawks, but dating ourselves, the Hawks, while not championship level, always used to matter in the NBA, and now they don't. Even back when they had,
remember that time when Mike Woodson came in a few years, we were like in like the edge of the world. We had Lon Kruger and Terry Stotts. After Coach Wilkins left the team, love it then. Then we got Mike Woodson after the playoffs. Took the Celtics to 7 games. My first year in Atlanta with the Hawks. So then we go from Mike Woodson to Larry Drew, who's
right.
Larry Drew. But then we go to Budenholzer, 60-win season. Then we tank. Then we get Chico the Barge and his shenanigans. and then look at us now. We traded 4 first-round picks. It's 3 real ones in our pick swap with the DeJounte Murray. And what did it really change? We're still 34-35 play-in team. And the roster's flawed too. They're talking about Quinn Snyder, cool, nice man. But what really changed?
Yeah,
nothing. We're 5-5 with the guy. We're a 500 team. I don't care who the coach is. You know what I'm saying? And now the fans, the narrative changed. Now Atlanta fans will tell Nate Miller needs to go. Nate this, Nate. But what's the same stuff is happening, brothers and sisters? Like Quinn Snyder ain't changed nothing. We still blew on leads in the fourth quarter. Can't stop a nosebleed. Taking horrible shots. So what's changed? So is he a bad coach? Because y'all sure said Nate was a bad coach. And now Quinn's not playing AJ Griffin. They're playing Johnson from Duke now. But so Nate wasn't playing young guys. We ain't developing guys. So all the things Nate was doing, Quinn's doing, but it's like give him grace. Just say. No, I like the dude personally. He's a nice man, nice to me. But what's really nothing's really changed here. But the narrative in Atlanta has changed. Like, the team's so much better. Where?
And that, to me, that was a big swing for Murray, like you said, to give up all that. And he was fine in San Antonio, but to me, he didn't just set the world on fire to that degree. And that was a big swing. And
I'm gonna say this: the Hawks have 2 All-Stars, but not a superstar. You could argue that Chico and DeJounte Murray are All-Stars, right? But you can't call them superstars.
Yeah.
and they both need the ball a lot.
And the NBA is a superstar league.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be real with y'all. This is people hate when I say this, but I'm gonna just be real with y'all. The Atlanta Hawks cannot win a championship with Chico DeBarge as our leader and point guard. Because then the playoffs, what you gonna do? Put him in the action, make him defend. Then on offense, you put somebody long on him and switch on him. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
like, I mean, come on.
It's not too many times they're gonna meet Ben Simmons in the playoffs, and he's not gonna take a shot.
Correct. Or Tom Thibodeau, who don't make any adjustments.
Right. I mean, that was a perfect run, but you called it at the time.
Yeah.
The Sixers was flawed when you ain't got Ben Simmons.
Best matchups possible the Hawks could ever have to advance. Seriously, the best matchups. Two coaches, Glenn Doc Rivers, former Atlanta Hawk, and Tom Thibodeau, the knee killer, who do not make adjustments.
You're right, Terry. He did. I mean, he was on that way back last time he was on, and
absolutely, we talked about it, and JR said that. Hey, don't believe that.
Yeah, real quick too, man. Look, when seeing you on Twitter, your posts when you're covering games. When you're not in Atlanta, you'll pop up to Memphis and cover games quite a bit. The 901.
Indiana too.
Yeah. So Ja Morant gets an 8-game suspension for conduct detrimental to the league, not the team, the league. So TB and I talked about it a little bit last week. So it's got to get your thoughts on everything that's happened with that.
I don't feel bad for him. He wants to be a thug, and he's not a thug. He goes to suburbs. I'm from the hood. But if I don't tell you, you don't know that, right? If I don't tell you. You see what I'm saying? I'm not like, I'm from the hood. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to be something he's not. I don't know. Pat Bev says part of the music. Nah, bro. This is a mindset thing. This is a choice. It ain't about needing counseling. This is about a choice. You chose to want to be something you're not. You chose to want to portray something you're not. That's not a mental problem, bro. That's a choice you made. You know what I'm saying? You in Memphis, TBU from Memphis. You know how Memphis is.
Memphis is different,
and you know there's certain people in Memphis where he be acting. They got something on him. You know that. So he needs to chill out, being in Memphis, doing what he's doing. And his father, Baby Usher, he's the homeboy, not the daddy.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you some backstory. In Memphis, the Mama Morant, she was so rowdy on the court, she got sent to the suites. Okay, and T gets told by the referees that she should be quiet. We're giving them a tick. And I hate to say this, brothers, that sometimes people just don't need money. Sometimes, brothers. I mean, they want.
We've seen it. We've seen money. I was gonna hit some OJs, but I'm gonna let that slide. But
I love the money, or the backstabbers. Which one is it?
But Memphis is probably, as far as NBA cities go, that ain't the place for that.
None, not
because Memphis ain't got time for that. If you are a thug, you a thug. If you want to be thug, they will show you what a real thug is. They don't care.
And bro, you in Eads, bro. You in Eads. You out 40 east towards Oakland. You in Eads, my man. Then you want to come into the city being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now I don't feel bad for the wannabe. As they put on Twitter, Ja Warrant. I love that one. That handle.
They had some names, didn't they? Woo, they had some names. Hey, that's why I'm not getting off
NBA
Twitter.
dumb boy.
I ain't getting off Twitter because the jokes is too good.
That was some funny stuff right there, brothers.
You get
Ja
cooked.
Warrant and Ja Wick and NBA dumb boy, my top 3.
And you'll get cooked for sure. Hey man, tell everybody where they can find your work and your archived interviews and everything you got coming down the pipe in the future.
Hey folks, follow me, Instagram, Twitter, JR The BossMan and that BossMan Show. Interviews galore, YouTube as well. You can find them on my website, on the podcast link. Hit them all up. See all the coaches I talk to. See the house coverage I do. See all that. I'm on BS3, Believe Sports as well. Other sports ethos as well. I'm on there as well. So, folks, Follow your boy, the boss man. I'm in the building. I'm in the trenches for real. But like John Morant, I'm a real one. I'm in the trenches for real. You know what I'm saying? I get it on 2 occasions, brothers, like the deal said, day and night.
That's right. Hey, I'll be sure on the way out. Perfect.
Look at
Perfect.
this, man. Look at
Perfect.
this. We done hit all the R&B ones.
We did. Perfect. Hey, man, we got to get you back on when these playoffs come around, too. You know we'll holler at you.
No, well, the Hawks should be done soon, so don't worry about it. I'll be around.
You got some free time because the Hawks ain't gonna be there.
Hey,
right.
I might join you April 11th. We gonna be playing a game. April 11th, I see April 11th, brother. It's about 4 weeks.
I'll send you a text, man. I'll holler at you.
I'll see y'all. Y'all be easy.
Appreciate it, JR. Always
Appreciate
fun. Always
No
fun.
doubt.
JR the BossMan, y'all. Check him out. Appreciate him starting off our March Madness Spectacular. Guest number 2 is in the building, TB. Longtime friend. You knew him before I did. You was, catching loose balls on the sidelines pregame, seeing what shoe who was wearing, getting the vibe of what was going on in Rupp Arena before the game started. So I just kind of followed your lead. Got to meet him, got to know him as well. We're talking about Randy Newman from Big Blue Express, BigBluexpress.com. Welcome back, Randy.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Man, we
Welcome to the
appreciate
show, Mr. Newman. Always good with COVID, and of course with me, moving to the middle of nowhere. I do miss getting to the games early at Rupp Arena and catching some loose balls and sitting there courtside until they made us move. But always good to have you join us. So you're part of our bracketology spectacular.
Okay.
So
Okay.
without further ado, number 1, your thoughts on this particular Kentucky season.
Well, it's a grab bag of emotions this year, but I mean, it's it's been a tough season. It has, but up and down. It's hard to decide where you fall on how you feel about them, because there have been injuries. I know people like to say, well, that's an excuse, but it's a legitimate thing. There's been injuries throughout the whole season. I mean, I can't remember hardly a year that there has been an off and on different guy hurt the whole time, it seemed like. So I feel like that what happens this weekend is very important for how we see this season. If they can get out of this weekend, I feel like that will buy them some, good, get them back in the good graces of a lot of fans, I think. Whether that's fair or not, to hinge it all on, 1 or 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last few years just have snowballed into a point that everyone was not everyone, but a lot of people got to a breaking point or whatever. And they're, so when this season had some struggles, they were ready to jump ship, kind of. So, with Kentucky fans, we know there's a group that's ready to jump ship all the time. Yeah. But this was one of the first times that I started to think, okay, I mean, maybe we are getting closer to the end of the Coach Cal era, which is going to end at some point anyway. I mean, he's only going to coach at Kentucky for so long. We know that.
Right.
But this was the first time that I started to question, like, how is this going to end up if they couldn't right the ship enough to make the NCAA tournament? I thought, then something's going to happen after this year, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. But they did, and I feel like they've righted the ship enough to say, look, we've got this team coming in next year. I don't think Cal wants to end. This is just my thought. I don't think he wants to end on a season like we've had this year. I think he would like for his tenure at Kentucky to end on a positive note. So me personally think that he would like to take next year, hopefully take off, and maybe that's maybe that's it. I mean, maybe going into the season, he even would say, okay, this is my last year at Kentucky. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that has nothing to do necessarily with this season. But the further they advance, the better, the less
Salve.
pressure. Yeah.
The better salve for the wound it'll be.
Yes, exactly. Because nothing cures wounds like winning in March.
Right,
You know.
right. And the thing about Cal is we all know Kentucky coaches don't get that Coach K treatment. They don't
No.
get the, it is you reach a peak, and then when it's clear that maybe you can't get back to that, you got to go. And Cal's probably the first coach to see that dip and have the opportunity to get back. Because usually you got to go. I mean, Joe B. Hall had to go. Tubby had to go.
Tubby had to go. Yeah,
Even Rupp had to go at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, he was unceremoniously like, you got to go.
Yeah, pushed out the door basically. Yeah.
And his name is building, right? So
yeah.
But I think Cal understands this isn't the job that you do for 20 years.
No.
And right off into the sunset. This ain't that. And so I give only a little bit of credence to those folks like, Cal's got to go. Yeah, at some point he's got to go. I didn't think he's going to make it this long, right?
No.
But I'm with you. I don't think Cal's ego would be okay with him, I don't want to say leaving in the night, but like whimpering out, right?
Right.
Because he left UMass, they wanted him to stay.
Yeah.
When he left Memphis, they really wanted him to stay, right? And I think he wants to leave like, hey, I did everything I could. He wants to put one more banner up, whatever it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then, he can go do whatever else is next for him because, I've said this, Vinny, on this show a long time ago. He can finish the second best coach in Kentucky history.
And I think you talked about his ego. I felt this way more so 3 or 4 years ago than I do now. But his ego is that he wants to be the only other coach besides Rupp to have multiple banners up to separate himself from Pitino, from Tubby, from Joe B.
Yeah.
Rupp had his 4 because he loves to say 5 guys have won 8 championships. That's true. But I'm the only other guy. I'm the first guy since 1958 that's got 2 up here. And his ego wants to do that. The gold standard, the chasing UCLA and all that, even though it's gotten rocky, I think that fueled him.
Right. Because you get to 2 championships or a 5th Final Four. You're the second best coach in Kentucky. And all that other stuff gets forgotten. In your coaching obituary, it's not how you left UMass, how you left Memphis. And we know the NCAA, like we're not going to relitigate all that crap. But hey, the second best coach in Kentucky, that ain't bad.
No. That's pretty good. Yeah.
So
I agree.
So looking at this particular matchup, we got Providence. We know it's the Bryce Hopkins game and blah, 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 blah. So breaking down the game that we've got, what are you kind of thinking for the Cats just for game 1? Not looking ahead, but just for Providence.
I mean, I think, obviously when the matchup came out, the NCAA likes to say they don't, make setup stuff, but convenient. Maybe whether they said, hey, look, Bryce Hopkins played at Kentucky, let's put these together. But it's a convenient situation for them. But I still think that it's a good matchup for Kentucky, personally. I know they're a good offensive team, or were at one point, but they really have struggled lately. They're an undersized team. They're not a team that is like Vandy in terms of going to shoot threes like crazy and make a ton of threes. They basically shoot the same number as what Kentucky shoots. They same percentage, shoot about as many. So now that don't mean they're not going to come out and make 10 threes, because that's probably going to happen. But I like, the pressure. Obviously, yes, there's pressure on Cal and there's pressure on Kentucky after what happened last year, but there's a whole lot of pressure on Bryce Hopkins that he's going to put on himself, I think, just because that's what happens. What happens when we go play on the road at, somebody's hometown? Usually they don't play great. Well, I mean, he's going to want to make a point that, look, this is what you should have been playing me, and
Right.
maybe he'll have a great game. But that's a lot of pressure on you to go into the game feeling like, hey, I'm going to prove myself.
In an NCAA tournament game, I think it would be
Yeah.
different if it was just a regular season matchup or at Maui or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a tournament game, that's not the time to prove a point,
No.
right?
Right.
We have seen so many teams over the years get derailed because one player wanted to prove a point, whether somebody didn't recruit him or what have you. That's one of those things. I mean, these kids, they're kids, right? And I
Yeah.
know how I was at 20. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
going to show
I'll
you,
show
right?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just human nature,
Yeah.
right? We've been in our 20s. We've been
Right.
20-year-old young
Yeah.
men, and that is the perfect age. I'm going to show you.
Yeah. Yeah. Then on top of that, they've got the distraction of the Ed Cooley to Georgetown stuff
Mhm.
that they're going to get asked about tomorrow at their press conference, and that's just another distraction that they're dealing with. But I mean, sometimes teams rally around a situation like that, and so anyway, I feel fairly confident, as much as you can feel confident with this team, and that it's just, I guess you never are 100% sure. It seems like this is just one of those years that you think what's going to happen going into any, and it's been the opposite so many times. So, but I feel pretty good about the matchup. I'm sure it's going to be a close game. I mean, it's not going to be an easy win, but it's kind of one of those. I mean, that's what March is. You win this game. That's that's all that matters. Let's win this one game, and then we'll see
Right.
what can happen after that. And it can be sometimes a snowball effect, but I mean, you got to win one.
And the point I made on our spaces on Tuesday was, think about 2014. We go back to that because that's the great redemption story. And the point I made was that Kansas State game in the first round, there was nothing remarkable about it. It was like late on a Friday. It was like we won whatever the score was. It wasn't nothing
pretty.
about that game indicated that we were going to get the rest of that. Even 2011, right? The game against Princeton, Harvard, one of those Ivy League schools.
Maybe Penn, I don't know, but yeah, one of them.
Yeah, Princeton.
Was it Princeton that Bray Knight? Like, I didn't feel warm and fuzzy because we needed a last second bucket to beat an Ivy League team.
Yeah,
but you don't know. And the point I was making is just get the one.
Yeah, exactly.
You get the one. You get the monkey off your back. Now you're playing with house money.
Exactly. That's what they can flip it back to those days of where you're the underdog now, which is what Cal likes to be anyway. I mean, he wants to be the underdog and be able to, nobody's respecting us. Well, you're not the favorite in the rest of these games. So
and that's the beauty of winning in the blue jerseys, right? Like,
yeah.
It's so rare that we get to, I'm saying Kentucky gets to be the underdog, that you can legitimately say nobody believes in us. But real quick before we let you go, Rain, the rest of the bracket.
Yes.
What other teams are you looking to get to the Final Four? Who's your sleeper pick? Who do you think's going to cut down the nets? Barring Kentucky not doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Right. That caveat in there.
Yeah. I brought my brackets down because this is one of those years that I felt like going into it that anybody can beat anybody almost in this tournament. It's hard then to predict, where's this going to happen? But So my Final Four, I felt like is chalkier than I would want it to be, but you know, it's just like I don't know. Anything can happen. I still question Alabama. I know they bounced back and showed what they played great in the SEC tournament. They didn't look good before that. I still wonder how they're going to play. So I have them losing in the Elite Eight to Arizona. So I've got Arizona in the Final Four. I've got Marquette coming out of the East. Hopefully that's wrong. I've got them playing.
You are
Duke
wrong, Randy. I love you, but you're
Yes.
wrong. But go ahead.
Good. I've got Duke. I've got Duke in the Elite Eight with them, and that's something that scares me to death about the East. Is I just am afraid that Duke's somehow going to squeak out of there. But anyway, got the Zags in the West and Houston in the Midwest, and I actually have Houston winning it all. So, obviously, a lot relies on Marcus Sasser being healthy, which I saw earlier today looked like he was practicing fine. But if you told me that none of those teams were going to make the Sweet 16, I'd be like, well, that's believable. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I've got Baylor, Kentucky,
mhm.
Texas, and Gonzaga. Because the West, pardon my language, that's a clusterfuck.
Yes.
You've got
Yes.
8 teams that can come out of the West.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Kansas.
Seriously. I don't either.
The thing is, Kansas is here in Des Moines. I want to go boo them on Saturday.
Yeah,
my wife is like,
should.
you shouldn't spend that money just so you. For me, it'd be worth it if I could just go boo Kansas, boo Arkansas, Illinois. That's full of a bunch of teams I want to just boo, and I want to do that. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, the West is got so many options. It's hard to pick who's going to come out of there. So
I mean, it could be Kansas, it could be Arkansas, it could be UConn.
You got UConn,
it could
UCLA.
be Iona.
I mean, it could. I actually on my official bracket, I have Iona beating Connecticut.
I do,
and I have VCU beating St. Mary's, so I have Iona beating VCU. I've got Iona in the Sweet 16. So
I do as well. Because
Ricky P, I guess it's a belief in him, but I think he will be game planned for Connecticut. So
and Ray Allen ain't walking through that door.
No,
Connie Marshall ain't walking through that door.
Right? Yep, that's right. Jim Calhoun ain't either.
Through that door.
Yeah, but it's going to be a wild tournament.
I don't think I've ever, and look, I'm pro SEC except for Tennessee. I want everybody to do well in the postseason, in the bowl games, and want the conference to do it because especially SEC basketball, it's always ACC and Big Ten and Big East. But I've been rooting against Alabama for weeks, and I want them to flame out as soon as possible with the way they've handled this whole situation.
I agree. I told a friend, I said, I don't think I can root for Alabama in the tournament. I just the whole situation, the way they've handled it. Anyway, now if they play Duke in the Final Four,
now I might flip for that.
Obviously, maybe. But
I don't root for Duke on principle. There's just some teams I'm not writing down just on general principle. But I got you.
And Greg Byrne was an AD he's from the Mitch Barnhart AD tree.
Yeah.
And if they continue to be kind of nonchalant, to me, eventually some of this goes to him. Like, why didn't you step in and tell Nate, hey, man, you need to, because, and I hate to see it get to that point, but it's just a mess.
Yeah. It's not been, they've handled it very badly. And people can say whatever they want, but I'm like, I just know if that was the University of Kentucky basketball program and the same thing was happening, and I know there's been tons of national media coverage of it, but it would be handled. I mean, Kentucky would handle it differently, but the national media would handle their coverage of it a lot differently, I think, if it was Kentucky in the same situation. That's just me.
Absolutely. I don't like to throw stones,
right?
But we saw what the football program did with all those guys at the fight. And
Yeah.
it was like, you're going to sit until we figure this out.
Yeah.
Hell, we
Right.
sat Chris Rodriguez, and
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% sure what that was
Yeah.
really about, right?
Right.
And so we've done that. And I talked before, I don't know where I was. I do a lot of talking, Vinny. I'm on a lot of things. I do a lot of talking. But I remember when Jules Kamara was like in a car accident way back when, and it was he drinking? Was he not drinking? What's the details? Whose car was it? Or whatever it was. I can't remember. But I think he sat a game.
He said some Terrence Jones had a similar situation.
Mhm.
He had a car wreck with
Yep.
somebody, and he had to sit a game or two just because they're trying to figure out what was going on.
Right. And at the very least, you have to sit if you don't know. And then what got me about that was Nate Oates saying, we know everything. Then the police, the grand jury, whatever, that news broke, and it's like, did you know everything? Did you know that? That was the thing that struck me about that. So
And
I'm not rooting for Alabama.
No.
The us against the world only works if somebody gets injured. It ain't because you had players involved in a murder like that.
Right.
You don't get to play that
can't
card.
do that card. Yeah.
And
I agree.
And the stuff with Miles was so quick. He was indicted. He's off the team, and they moved on. And then, like, wow, that it's like it was so cut and dry. And then all this other stuff starts to trickle. And we all know good and well if Brandon Miller averaged 2.1 points a game and 0.8 assists, he'd have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah.
So
that's the truth.
Yeah. Anyway.
It just is. Yeah.
Randy, how you doing, man? Just in general, how's the family?
I'm good.
And everything like that?
We're all good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Enjoying life, enjoying all the tournament stuff. My son, he's big sports fan now. I mean, he's 13, so we watch NBA and college basketball. I've got him fully into the tournament stuff. We did a little challenge between the two of us. We filled out all the power conference brackets for the conference tournaments and competed. He beat me, so he won a little money. But I told someone, I'm not beyond bribing my children to be interested in tournament basketball. I mean,
you're the second guest to be invested in the conference tournaments. That must be the new thing, Vinny. To be involved in the
expanding it. Yeah. You just get it into that too. Yeah, exactly. So now we've got brackets and all that. So the challenge is going. So yeah, everything's all good.
And how old is your son? Did you say?
He's 13. 13 years old.
So he's not because I've run into you all at I don't know, Big Blue Madness or whatever.
Yeah.
13?
He's 13. Yeah. Were you thinking
Man, Vinny, you're getting old, Vinny.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I am.
I mean, he was a little. I mean, I brought him to Big Blue Madness. I think I don't know how old he was. I mean, he was little.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's very knowledgeable on sports. So that's been fun as he's gotten older, and it's made me be a lot more interested in the NBA because he really was interested in it. Then, of course, we have become huge Knicks fans. We follow quickly, and that's been fun. Got to go catch a game.
Why can't y'all become Lakers fans? Like all these Kentucky fans.
Well,
we've got Vanderbilt, we've got AD, we've got Winion. Come on, man. But everybody's like, we root for the Cats, but nobody roots for the Lakers.
As it should be.
No. It's like, it's kind of like anyone else rooting for Kentucky. No one else is going to ever do it. I mean, the Lakers are sort of the Kentucky of the NBA to a degree.
They are, yeah. That's my thing. Yeah,
I have nothing against the Lakers. Knicks did beat them the other day.
Yes, they did.
Without LeBron, but if IQ gets traded to the Lakers or something, then I'll move my allegiance, I guess. But no, I don't know. I think he's good. I think he's good being in New York right now. So
they love him in New York.
They do. He's really had a breakthrough season. Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah.
But Randy, we don't want to keep you. I know you got family obligations and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate you hopping on. Where can folks find your sports, your really
My
good sports
takes.
takes. Yeah,
My
your takes.
good sports takes they're on my Twitter is the best place. The @BigBlueXpress. I mean,
And
that's
folks,
the best place.
you got to go find his dream scenario for Kentucky fans.
Yes.
He's got a John Wick level revenge tour,
Yes,
starting with Bryce
exactly.
Hopkins, going to Kansas State, and then was it Duke after that?
Well, no,
Marquette.
because we have to play Marquette, which the D Wade revenge.
Well,
then
and
you've got
for Joe
Duke.
Crawford. For Joe Crawford. Remember,
yeah, exactly.
he had
pour one out for Joe.
Probably the best game I've ever seen in a loss. Because I talk about this all the time, real quick.
Yes.
It was clear Kentucky wasn't going to win that game.
Yeah.
But Joe Crawford gave everything he had his last game in a Kentucky uniform. 35 points.
35, I think. Yeah, he had the best. Tayshaun had the best forgotten game in an NCAA tournament win, the 41-point win game against Tulsa. And then Joe Crawford had the best just forgotten game in an NCAA tournament loss, I feel like, that I can remember. The 35 points. It was amazing game.
I talked about it all because only Ramel Bradley was in double figures. And Joe was like, I'm just going to do everything I got.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Joe Crawford and Ramel Bradley.
Absolutely. Those guys were some warriors.
That team does not ever make the NCAA tournament without those two dudes just basically dragging them.
Yeah. I talked about that often. And even Reggie Hansen, who was a coach at the time, was like, Joe was the dude. Like, he just like, I'm going to go get these buckets. But Randy Newman of Big Blue Express, always fun.
Yes,
One of the highlights to being on the hell site that is Twitter is that our paths have crossed.
Exactly.
A lot of fun things. It's always good to talk to you, Randy. We certainly appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully we have a good weekend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll keep it going. The revenge tour, baby.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speak it into existence, Randy.
Exactly. All right. See y'all.
Thank you, Randy.
Randy Newman, Big Blue Express. Took the picture that I use on Twitter right now, my little profile, sitting there next to Johnny Juzang and Riley Welsh. I still got that. So appreciate Randy for snapping that courtside a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah. You know, like I said, we just did a lot of stuff together. We rode the train together with me, and there's only about 6 media people. That was fun. And
that was
and
awesome.
Yeah, man. And Coach Cal cussed at me and Bradley McKee. Who the bleep are these guys? Like, they told us to get on the track. That was fun. That was fun.
Man,
that was a highlight.
That's unique. That's not your average covering the game. That's out of the box stuff, man. Just, midway.
I was thinking today because Facebook memories pop up. 5 years ago, I was in Boise covering the game. We had just driven 38 hours to get there to cover the Boise game, and then 4 years ago, I met Magic Johnson at the SEC tournament in
I remember
Nashville.
I text you. I said Magic there or something like that.
You and like 15 other people, because I'm sitting there, and my now wife Kate, she found me on TV. She got a screenshot of the back of my head because I always wore a Cubs hat, to kind of stand out. But 2 rows from the floor, I was even with the free throw line there. And so you and like a bunch of people, apparently they showed Magic on TV. And I'm sitting there, my phone just buzzing. I'm like, man, folks know I'm at the game. What's going on? I checked. Magic's there. I'm like, Magic Johnson? Yeah. I'm like, why is Magic Johnson at the SEC tournament? Because Michigan State was playing in the Big Ten tournament. So I'm like, why is he here? Okay, whatever. Like, well, he's there. All right, great. Well, where are they showing? He's courtside. I'm like, well, I'm courtside. What do you see? And so I'm having all these conversations and trying to focus on the game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, was it the Tennessee game? No, it was not the Tennessee game. It was whoever we played before Tennessee. So I can't remember. But anyway, I'm like, man, I'm not seeing him. before halftime, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the concession, not the concession stand, but the media room. Is that a humble brag because I went to the media room? But anyway,
No, I mean,
before halftime, and I'm
Yeah.
walking, and I just see a gaggle of people, like just 20 people just coming, and then there's 6'9" Magic Johnson, like in the center of this activity that's moving down the hallway, and they get close, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, hey, Magic, hey, man. And he kept going. I'm like, that's enough. That's all I need. We friends now. Friends now, man.
That's right.
Me and Magic go way back. But the thing I like about the SEC tournament is, and I assume it's still the same way, the food is the SEC. In the media room, the drink, it's Sunkist and Dr. Pepper, which I'm like, that's a SEC thing. And then I want to say it was the Saturday session. They had breakfast / brunch, but it was what we eat. Y'all know how we do down south. It was biscuits and gravy. It was real bacon that you knew they got a little grease on it. It was real sausage patties. It wasn't none of this like you get other places. It was real Southern stuff. They had a little bit of fruit bowl, but it was like, woo, I could eat this food all day and drink some Sunkist.
Perfect.
Like 4 things of regular Sunkist, only one diet.
Yeah.
Because again, that's how we do down south.
The 80-20, 80-20 regular. Yeah.
You're going to get a little bit. I mean, hey, that's the biggest shock to my system being in the Midwest. You sit down. Now, where we from, if you order tea, what are you thinking in your head?
Oh, sweet, man.
Sweet tea.
Sweeter than sweet.
Right. I need the kind of tea that hurts your teeth. That's how I like it. That's how I make my Kool-Aid.
Yes.
But you sit down and you're like, would you like unsweetened tea? Like, what? You may as well I mean, what? Like, yeah, can I get some sweet tea? And it ain't sweet enough.
No.
Like, this is the sweet tea. Yes, sir. this right here, sweet tea. And my wife's like, that's why down south, y'all got diabetes and all that stuff. Yes.
Yes, we do.
But we live more exciting lives.
Yes. The food we have, yes.
Yes, the food is bad, but boy, we love it.
Yes.
Put me some grease on it. Like, what are we doing here?
We still eat like we're about to go on the farm for 14 hours. And
right.
And then we going straight to the office, but we still, it's okay.
You need to be hardy down south.
Yes.
It's generally hot and humid. Mm-hmm. Like you need something hardy on you. But anyway, but but just reflecting back on all the fun stuff I've got to do, getting yelled at by Coach Cal's wife, Ellen, a couple years ago at her house. Always fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you get to do that, yeah.
I almost pooped my pants, but Anyway, you say we got somebody in the blue room?
Our third guest of the evening, who hails from the Midwest that you just spoke of, and we talked about the tea not being sweet enough. I hope he can accept our apologies for that, but he is in the blue room. I'll let you introduce
my man Adam Jacobi. He covers Iowa sports for Go Iowa Awesome. Fantastic person. And when I say friend of the show, I don't mean friend of the show. I mean he has been to my house and we have broken bread several times. I have grilled for this man. He has cooked chili for me. So when I say friend, it ain't just whatever. It's the real deal. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Adam Jacobi.
Thank you so much for having me. And everything that you said about tea in the Midwest is absolutely true. I mean, listen, I was born and raised here, but after I've had sweet tea, like I need the stuff that if you leave it out for 5 minutes, it just turns into solid sugar, like just a solid crystal of sugar. You know what I mean? Like the super saturated version of it. Yeah, like of course it's going to make me sick. It's the point.
Right. I'm not going to do this all the time, but I need some sweet tea.
This man has come on over. He's just converted right on over. Man.
Adam's good people.
It was easy to do.
Adam, you are where right now?
I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. It is it's my first time in the state. I'm covering the Iowa men's first round and hopefully second round games. First round is going to be against Auburn. which is not going to be an easy thing. But it pales in comparison to Houston, who's the 1 seed and who would in all likelihood be waiting in the next round. So I don't know how long this trip to Bracketville is going to take, but I'm glad to be here.
Welcome to Alabama. He's speaking. He in the South. You can get you some good sweet tea down there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can get you some good Dreamland barbecue and
That's
and
right.
all that good stuff, man. So that's a true road game for the Hawkeyes too, essentially.
It is. It is. Now, the nice thing is Alabama is in this pod as well. Well, there's 2 pods. Alabama's in the other pod. So Alabama fans have been asking what Iowa's chants are because they are every bit as committed to seeing Auburn lose in the first round as Iowa fans are. So we've got this weird, uneasy alliance between the black and gold and Roll Tide. We'll see how that plays out in terms of what the actual hostility in the crowd is going to be come tomorrow. I think it's its own little fascinating side plot, honestly.
Unbelievable.
The wife wasn't too happy when she realized that Iowa was going to Alabama to have to play Auburn, and they had to break out the rule of being so far from your home campus and all that kind of stuff. She was not a fan. She was not a fan.
It's understandable, especially because Iowa's the 8th seed and Auburn's the 9th. So you would think, like, logically, 8 would get the preference, but like you said, NCAA rules just don't work like that. And ultimately, when you're the 8th seed, you can't really be asking for any sort of preferential treatment. They are not holding the tournament for you. You are there to be.
You're just there to fill in the bracket, right?
For the 1 seed. That's it.
That's a good way to look at it, man.
So you're a Big Ten guy, Adam. You've been covering the Hawkeyes forever and ever. And I think the elephant in the room when it comes to the Big Ten is it's been since Y2K, for the old folks like ourselves, Vinny, it's been Y2K since a Big Ten team has cut down the nets. Is that something that might change this year, or what are your thoughts on that drought, more or less?
It might change this year. It probably won't, but it might because there's so many Big Ten teams. One of them, just strictly mathematically, one of them might do it. And Purdue is going to be tough. But Purdue, with their, speaking of elephants in the room, Zach Edey's 7'4" and has actually learned how to play basketball this year. He's definitely taken a step up in terms of skill versus being 7'4". But Purdue also has a true freshman backcourt starting. They've played really well for freshmen, but you get into the tournament, you start asking these kids who were in high school last year to start guarding All-Americans, especially ones that they haven't seen before. And it's a heck of an ask. And we've seen Purdue's guards sort of come up short before. So if that's the conference's best bet, and really this is the second best conference in college basketball by the numbers. I mean, no one is even close to the Big 12, but then it goes Big 10, and then very closely behind is the SEC, and really it's just a matter of the bottom of each conference. You would expect more success out of the Big 10, and they're putting a ton of teams in the tournament, but whatever it is about this style, whatever it is about the way this conference just sort of eats its own, has not been conducive to March Madness success in a long time. And I don't really see that changing this year.
So that was Michigan State, Mateen Cleaves. That was the last one.
Yeah.
And in 2000 against a young Mike Miller.
Florida.
In Florida, yeah.
That was a heck of a team too. When Mateen Cleaves came back from that ankle injury, it's Willis Reed all over again, basically, except Reed didn't do a whole lot. All he did was come out of the tunnel and shut down Abdul-Jabbar for a couple possessions. And that was sort of the emotional boost that the Knicks needed back then. Cleaves still put the team on his back for that. And so if that's what it takes for the Big Ten to win a national championship, I can see why they haven't done it since.
Because championships are hard. And that's the one thing we try to tell Kentucky fans is like, it's not a birthright. They're really hard to win.
Right. And the only reason anybody ever wins the NCAA tournament is because somebody has to. It's a single elimination and 63 teams get eliminated. But otherwise, you're talking about beating 6 tournament quality teams in 3 weeks with, and twice in there, you're coming off of 1 day's worth of rest. It's incredibly difficult, and you need an incredible amount of luck on your side. And there's always just going to be one team that just survives and advances and outlasts. Now, are these teams great? Yes, of course. But being great only gets you so much. And Kentucky fans know that acutely after last season. But that happens. It's also happened to Michigan State and Tom Izzo. It's also happened to Coach K and Duke. Like, they've both lost as 2 seeds too.
Well, and that's the point that I always make is everybody's complaints against Coach K. I'm like, that's not unique to him.
No.
If you are a top-level coach and you've been doing this for 25 years, every program has at least 1 or 2 teams where you look back in retrospect and it's like, how the hell did that team not win?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not unique to anything that Kyle's doing in Kentucky. Every coach has it. From, can we talk about Dean Smith only winning 2 on like the most bizarre set circumstances ever, right? Like, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Right. And so ultimately, I mean, it's the goal that everybody's working toward. So I don't want to say it's an overrated statistic. I don't want to say that it doesn't, portend greatness or not. But it's just really hard, and you need to be lucky, and you need things that are out of your control to go your way. Yeah. And that sounds like, some fans interpret that as sour grapes or something like that, or that a lucky team doesn't deserve it. Lucky teams deserve it all the time. Like, it's just part of the sport. It is. And sometimes the luck doesn't go your way.
Absolutely. So as we transition here, I don't know if you've got the bracket in front of you. We're going to ask for your final 4 picks and thoughts on the tournament. Any teams, not Kentucky, not Iowa, you're kind of hoping gets over the hump or anything like that?
Well, first of all, my favorite, and I think they don't get enough talk as a favorite, is Houston. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because they're an AAC team up until they actually joined the Big 12. It's not like they were playing in the Big 12. It's not like every single game was against, future 8 seed or 9 seed or whatever. Houston can run with anybody. And, can other teams beat them? Of course. Like, Memphis did beat them, so Memphis can beat them. Do I trust anybody else in the tournament to beat them, though? Do I trust them? No. So Houston is my, not only coming out of the Midwest for me, but I've got them winning the national championship. And it's such a crapshoot elsewhere. Coming out of the South, I've got Bama, but again, just because somebody has to. I still don't trust them.
One
leaving aside everything else about Nate Oates.
With Alabama, you got to leave the elephant in the room to the side there. We've talked about that before. Now, I don't know if our first guest, JR The BossMan, came on. He gave Drake University a shout out and Coach DeVries.
Absolutely.
So he's like, they've got a chance against Miami. Which I know would be huge here in the DSM area to get that win, because it's been a while since Drake has won a tournament game, right?
It has been a while, and it would also be a little bit of closure for the last really great Drake team, which ended up earning a 5 seed in, I want to say 2006. That was a team that basically ran the table in a tough Missouri Valley, and then was the victim of a 5-12 upset against Western Kentucky, who had, what was his name? Joe Harris, I want to say, who ended up having a cup of coffee in the NBA. but he wasn't even the guy that beat them on the last second three. But there's a lot of heartbreak in Des Moines when that happened, because that was the sort of Cinderella team. And so I know that they're looking forward to having a little bit of redemption. And I got to tell you, Tucker DeVries, Coach Darren DeVries' kid, is very liable to mess around and make himself famous and get himself in that one shining moment montage, because the kid can ball.
Yeah, we've seen that, kind of front and center, the games that we've been to. And Vinny, keep in mind, the Drake Bulldogs have been to a Final Four, and the team where you are right now, the Tennessee Volunteers, have not been to a men's Final Four. So I'm just throwing that out there. That's just one of those fun facts.
Love it.
Now, looking at the West is probably the one area where I'm like, I don't know, man. It could be 8 teams win it. Like, you could pretty much get to Iona. We talked a little bit about Rick Pitino and Iona. Like, if you told me Iona made it, I'd be like, that's pretty crazy. Like, but it wouldn't, it would. Who knows this year,
Yeah. The West is, man, like, can I see Kansas making it out? Yeah. Like, I have Kansas on paper, but would it surprise me if UConn beats them? No. Would it surprise me if Arkansas beats them? No. Would it also surprise me if Arkansas loses in the first round? No. They're like, Arkansas. I legitimately planned on Iowa facing Arkansas in the first round. That was the majority of the pre-writing that I was doing. I didn't anticipate Auburn at all. I thought Auburn was going to end up a 10. But Arkansas is capable. We've seen that at the 5 stars galore. UCLA kind of closely deserved a 1 seed. Would not surprise me at all if they come out of this one. But also Gonzaga's there. So legitimately, it would not surprise me if 5 or 6 different teams come out of the West. It wouldn't surprise me.
It's legitimately wide open, as long as it's not Illinois, because I pronounced the S because they stole Lincoln, Vinny. I ain't forgot forever ago.
Hey, real quick, friend of the show, TB, who you had on here, Tobin Anderson, and the winner gets Purdue. Fairleigh Dickinson is up 34-23 on Texas Southern. So in the playing game right now, and just you got Coach Anderson on the show.
FDU, the shortest team in Division I. Like, I don't think they have anybody above 6'5".
And there's
CBS Sports did a whole big thing on it. So shout out to the friend of the show. Now, the East, obviously Kentucky's going to win, but if they don't, things happen.
The East is another one of those where it wouldn't surprise me if a bunch of teams come out of it, but that, in the West, it's because so many of them are good. In the East, it's because I don't trust any of them.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know how I bleed, Adam. You've been to my home. You know where I am. Yeah. But I ain't put no money on the way.
Sparty. But no, like Kentucky, if it hadn't been for last year, I think the vibes around Kentucky might be a little bit different, but also we saw how the Cats did in the first half of the season. I'm old enough to remember that people wanted Cal fired mid-season. Like, don't even make your way to March. This is Coach Cal. So, I mean, this is, as long as they're a 4 seed, a 6 seed, like it's a pretty good setup for a 6 seed. And we know that Kentucky has the raw talent to overplay that seed in a way that, say, UNC did last year, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I've got them in the Elite 8. I've got Purdue over them. I don't like it. I'm sure that's going to be wrong.
Well, that doesn't sound like you're coming back any more barbecues.
Man.
Wow. I just said it was wrong.
You had your last drink of sweet tea at Terry's house.
Oh man, don't
No, hey, I told Mama B I was having you on the show last night. I talked to her, and she said, "Tell Adam I said hello, and tell Vinny I said hello too." So y'all are two of Mama B's favorites, and so I had to share that on here.
that's
appreciate it.
the best company to be in. And
Yeah.
and if I really am cut off, just make up a better lie for her than I picked Purdue over Kentucky.
Oh no,
for my ego's sake. Just for my ego's sake.
She wants Memphis to win. You know, she's a Memphis alum. But before we let you go, I know you're there in Birmingham. We've got to look at the women's tournament. And there's a team close to our hearts and a player, Vinny, who I don't know if you have seen her play. She is that dude. Like, I don't know how else to put it. And we're talking about Caitlin Clark. Like, we saw her, I guess last year.
Yeah.
I think she's
on
even
the
better.
Nets.
I think she's even better.
She is. She absolutely is. The numbers are better, and some of that is she had a pretty rough middle of the season last year. I don't know if that was related to the COVID shutdown that the program had. It wouldn't surprise me if it was. But her shooting had dipped in the middle of last season. She's clearly playing at 100% now. To me, she's the National Player of the Year, and that's saying something when Aaliyah Boston came back, and Boston earned it last year for South Carolina. I think South Carolina is the best team in the tournament. They're undefeated for a reason. I think they're winning the national championship. But Iowa is playing as well as anybody outside of Columbia in all of women's basketball. There is an article on the Washington Post that was just published, I want to say yesterday. And it's this deep dive into Caitlin Clark, her as a kid, like growing up in the middle of Iowa, the type of competitor she is. There's a lot of great quotes, including from Kevin Durant, who is a big Caitlin Clark fan. And look, if KD is a Caitlin Clark fan and saying that she's got that dog in her, you better realize she's legit. Like there is no more debate left around her. She has earned her way to National Player of the Year status. She's also really like reinventing what it is to be a women's basketball fan these days, which is badly overdue. And that's taken nothing away from all the women that have come before her. And Caitlin would say the same thing. You know, it's not a pitting somebody against each other, but the way that she plays is a way that really only Steph Curry plays too. And I think the more accurate comparison for her is her favorite NFL player, Patrick Mahomes. Because Mahomes is the sort of person that makes plays up on the fly, sort of excels in those high pressure situations, that level of creativity, that vision. Look, I love Steph Curry. I think he's one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter in NBA history. But Caitlin Clark is a better passer than him.
And that's the point, because we watched the Ohio State Big Ten championship game where they put the triple-double watch up in the third quarter, I think.
Yeah.
And she passes people open. Like most point guards will get you the ball if you're open, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the bare minimum of a good point guard. But she was having some passes where it's like, I'm going to put it where you have to contort your body. And I can't think of the last name of the
Zinano. Yeah.
I'm going to get it where you are going to catch it going toward the basket, away from the defender, and literally all you have to do is just lay it up.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain that to Kate, like that's hard to do, one, and it's rare. Like that's not something you see. You're open because I'm going to make you open. Wow. And that's that separator. Vinny, you know what I'm talking about? You love Isaiah Thomas and those great point guards where it's like they get you the ball and you don't even know you're open.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're just running and the ball's on you and you're like, oh, okay. And that's how Caitlin Clark's getting it done. So I know they're with the Stanford region. Is that right, in the tournament?
Yeah.
But
it's the 2 seed. Yeah.
But do we think But do we think that they can cut down the nets and get to the Final Four?
Whoa! To get to the Final Four, yeah, absolutely. Because we're talking about a team that is right now ranked number 2 in the AP Women's Poll. They are playing like a 1 seed now. Now, the reason that they're a 2 seed and not a 1 is early in the year, they still had some of their bad habits from last season, up to and including not getting stops in the fourth quarter. And it led to like a loss against Kansas State. The Drake women, who, by the way, are also 12 seeds in the women's bracket, the Drake women took them to overtime at the Knapp Center, which was a much more entertaining game than it had any right to be, but also is not the sort of performance you expect from a 1 seed. So while pollsters can look at, especially the way the Iowa women finished the season with a ton of big wins, and say, well, yeah, that is clearly the second best team in the nation right now. When you're on a selection committee and you're looking at the entire body of work, Iowa has 6 losses, and a 1 seed against that schedule probably should have had less. So I don't begrudge the fact that they're a 2 seed, and I don't begrudge the fact that Stanford probably earned their way in a much more complete manner than Iowa did. But if you're asking me, who am I taking straight up, Stanford versus Iowa right now, or I guess 2 weeks from now, barring any sort of disaster or anybody important getting injured, I'm taking Iowa just by a little bit.
All right. And just to say, the Drake women, they open up, Vinny, at the Yum Center against the Louisville Cardinals.
Ooh, okay.
So I have put this out here to a few folks. I'm going to put it out here now. If the Drake women beat Louisville at Yum,
love it.
My timeline's going to be nothing but all the pictures that we've taken at Drake, and the Bulldog on the outside, and the Drake relays. I'm going to be Drake.
Yes, absolutely.
They're going to be calling me on my cell phone. But
yeah.
Adam,
let me get one.
Okay. I'm sorry, Vinny.
Just one real quick. We talked about it last week, TB, and I asked you because you've been in Iowa for a while. I had to get your thoughts. So, Adam, I got to ask you as well. Just flipping it back to the men. Just your thoughts and the fan base's thoughts. We've talked about Ferentz a lot, but y'all's thoughts on old Franny Mac, Fran McCaffrey. How do you feel about him? How's the state feel about him? You know, people outside of Iowa, you see him blow up every now and then, and he becomes a GIF. He stares down the ref, or his assistants have to hold him back because he has a moment of combustible personality. How do y'all feel about him? Because y'all see him a lot more than somebody like me does.
He's an interesting character, and certainly lives up to the character part of it quite a bit. Does he have a lot of frantrums, frandemonium? The blow-ups on the sideline are frequent, and especially earlier in his career sort of typified what he was known for. He had toned it back a little over the last few years, but like the stare down, he's been ejected from another game. They've come back in force this year, which personally I'm fine with because it's pretty interesting. But the thing of it is, he's just like a basketball nerd who gets to coach. Because when he's in a good mood and you ask him a question about basketball or about his players, he will give you a very thorough, honest, thoughtful answer, even if it takes him like 45, 60 seconds to answer it. Down here in Birmingham, he had his press availability today, and I asked him about senior leadership and his 2 6-year seniors this year, including his eldest son, Connor, who is, might be suiting up for the last time as a basketball player at all, not just an Iowa player, or not just a college player. And he gave me a very, very detailed response about how having that senior leadership is so critical, especially in the Big Ten, where, it's game in, game out, you're playing tough opponents, and that for as important as coaching is, a lot of times there's feedback and communication for these younger players that is only going to matter when they hear it from a fellow teammate. And it was, I really appreciated that as a response, because there's so many guys, and even, when Fran's in a bad mood, he'll get curt just like anybody else with the press. But he genuinely enjoys talking about basketball. I'll tell you this, back in 2020, when there was a whole lot of reckoning going on about the power systems in college sports and the way some coaches exploit it and the way some others don't, it was not the best year for Iowa football. And it was not the best year for a whole lot of college basketball programs too. But through all that reckoning, Iowa men's basketball, and I think women's too, but Iowa men's basketball, I know for sure, stayed squeaky clean. There is not an ex-player that I heard of at all who has something bad to say about Fran as a coach or a person. So the fan base does not really like the fact that Fran hasn't made it to the Sweet 16 in the 13 and counting years that he's been in Iowa City. But from what I can tell, he runs the program the right way. No drama. He's a player's first coach all the way. And any former player will tell you the same thing. So from my perspective, covering the team, I think he's very interesting. And I don't know that whoever that next coach is, whenever that's going to be, if that next coach is half as interesting as Fran McCaffrey is, I'll be all right. But like he is, for someone like me, I'm lucky that he's in Iowa City, regardless of what happens on the court. And I'm not saying that as a homer. I'm saying that as somebody who has to watch this team for a living, because I know how much it stinks to have a boring coach.
Yeah.
and say what you will about Fran McCaffrey, not boring.
Absolutely.
That'll work.
Mr. Adam Jacobi, always fun to have you on. You're still invited over, because I know, when the weather turns, we're going to be grilling out here in the cornfield. So you're still invited. And Sammy says so as well as he walks around the
Give him a treat and some attention for me, because I don't think he gets enough of either.
Right.
Yeah, he's up on the couch. Yeah. Vinny, Adam's done all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's walking around now. But anyway, Adam, have fun in Birmingham.
Enjoy the South, man.
Yeah, get you some sweet tea and watch your team win. And I'm sure we'll be in contact, man.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Adam. Always a pleasure, sir.
Guy Adam Jacobi, man. Good people.
Yeah, like I said, he's a friend. He's last time he was over, he brought Brussels sprouts over. Did them real nice. I'm not a Brussels sprout person, but he I don't know, put some balsamic on it. I don't know, but it was good. Anyway,
that'll work. Got 3 guests and got the 4th one popping up just right now too. And real quick, man, before we bring our 4th guest on, you being from Louisville, I'm gonna defer to you, but Louisville, we made fun of them for winning 4 games, and the dog takes a dump right on the court right at the last home game. The Frisbee dog couldn't hold it.
The jokes write themselves.
Yes. But a sad note, man, Felton Spencer passed away at 55 years of age. And look, you grew up a Louisville fan.
I did.
I just knew me and Dad, I swear it was Kaywood, which is right beside Harlan, like 5 minutes from Harlan. Some all-star game or something. I swear that's where I saw him and maybe other high schoolers play. But I had to be 7 or 8 because he's 19 years older than us. First 7-footer I saw in person. He played, talked to him after the game. Dad took me down there and, just fascinated. And he was nice and kind. And I just have vague memories of that. But, seeing him play for Louisville, I will always remember, hey, I saw that dude as back when, we saw him at such and such. So just hated to see that he had passed away. Went on and played in the NBA, and nobody had a bad word to say about him. And you grew up rooting for him, and he came through when you were Cardinals.
Right. And my dad had a name for guys, 7-footers that just were out there because they were 7 foot. Called him Big Stoop. And his thing was, you got to be able to do something besides just being tall. And the thing that most people say about Felton Spencer was he was that at one point. He was just a tall dude. But he worked himself into a respectable NBA career, which most people that saw him in high school in his first year or so in Louisville wouldn't have said that he wasn't going to get any more than a cup of coffee with the NBA, but he did. And sad news. It was so sad that Mama B actually mentioned it when we talked the other night. So that's sad news. So
yeah. So definitely had to mention that for sure. And now we got our fourth and final guest, another friend of the show on TV. I gotta let you bring her in from the BS3 Network Blue Room.
Right. We've got, this is a very Katie-centric podcast. Can we say that?
For sure.
You got a Katie, I got a Katie, and now this Katie has probably been on. You probably don't. Do you watch Saturday Night Live where they have the big deal about the 5-time? You host 5 times. It started with Tom Hanks, and you get she's crawling up the ranks on many times as she's come on. I was reluctant because every time Miss Dzwierzynski comes on, South Carolina beats Kentucky, but I was checking the schedule. They don't play for a while. So we're going to bring on Miss Katie Dzwierzynski. She covers South Carolina. And so she's going to be hollering about some cocks because that's how how it goes. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining us. We really appreciate it. This bracket spectacular. We got to come up with a better name, Vinny.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Bracket extravaganza. We'll do that next year. All right. But Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. And thank you for that introduction.
A little rambly, but
it was good. I liked it.
You're from South Carolina, so obviously you're probably looking more to the women's bracket than the men's bracket, understandably. So being Kentucky fans, we're used to rooting for the odds-on favorite to win. So what is South Carolina Nation? South Carolina Nation. We'll go with that. Gamecock Nation. So what are they thinking about Dawn Staley and those lovely ladies there in Columbia?
I think pretty confident. I mean, we are undefeated. Pretty good season again. I think people are pretty confident. I think we're highly favored outside of just the fan base. Also, as I've said before, I always assume my teams are going to win, regardless of how likely that is. So I am, again, assuming that South Carolina is going to go all the way. But I think there are obviously other good teams. It's a big bracket. So I'm more nervous now that we're coming into this like undefeated and as a favorite than I might be if we're good, but there's, maybe a couple teams better than us. I think there is a lot of optimism, and I do think a lot of people think South Carolina is going to go all the way, but it is a little intimidating because you are undefeated and kind of are the targeted team. So rooting for my team to win while I know other people are rooting against us winning is also a little bit stressful.
It's a lot of bit stressful, Vinny. We've been there. We've seen a team go into a Final Four undefeated. But anyway, let's not bring that up.
Yes, for sure. And I like South Carolina. I don't, Tennessee is the one I never have any love for in the SEC. So TB and I are old enough to remember Dawn Staley as a player at Virginia. And now it's crazy that she's been at South Carolina since 2008. That's wild.
Has it been that long?
Yes. I was watching the Southern Hoops documentary, the 7-part special that went through every decade of SEC basketball. And this last episode Monday was from 2010-11 till the present. So, the 2012 Cats. They talked about South Carolina and Dawn Staley and her dynasty. And she was at Temple, but she left and went to Columbia in 2008. And I went, wow, I did not know she had been there that long. I know she, winning titles and built them up, but I did not realize she had been there that long. But I always liked her, still do. I don't have any ill will. Leah Boston is amazing. Bree Bill to me is underrated. They say she's a defensive player, but when she wants to, she can flash some offense. They don't really ask her to, but it's there if you need it. So they just got so many weapons. They're just loaded.
Dawn was actually hired when I was in college, and it's wild to me to think, like, I don't really think our women's basketball team was – I admittedly did not pay a lot of attention when I was like a freshman in college, but to look at what they were when I was in school to what she's kind of built now is, like you said, it's kind of it's been a lot longer than I would have thought, and a lot longer since I was in school than I would like it to have been. But it is really amazing to see like what she's done and what she's been able to maintain over that period of time to really have just a standard of winning and winning by a lot and winning it all for so long.
Yeah. And SEC has always been on the front lines of women's hoops, because Vinny and I remember when Pat Summit was in her heyday, and that was a juggernaut that we didn't think we'd see again. But here comes South Carolina, beating Kentucky the same kind of way that I went to one of our women's games against Tennessee, and Tennessee won 101-36. And I was like, are we short a person, or do they have extra? Like, are they playing something different? And that's what you get when you watch South Carolina.
Yeah, dominant, just dominant. So, like you mentioned, Katie's winning everything against us head to head. So thankfully we can reflect back to last year in the SEC tournament. They went on and won the national championship. Kentucky got the SEC tournament. So that's the last time I think we beat South Carolina in anything. Because
is that true?
It's probably not far from the truth. We might have got them in volleyball or something, but
no, I don't know.
But football. That's
why I sent her a message not too long ago. Like, we want to have you back on, but every time you come on, South Carolina embarrasses Kentucky on national television.
I think it's going great. I think it's great.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm
gonna
start putting on the internet that you are a secret Dabo Swinney fan.
Oh. That's like those tweets that say, how will someone know if I'm taken hostage? And you put something you would never say. That's like one of those.
But Vinny, did you see that? Remember when Dabo said if people get paid, he was going to go back to whatever he was doing before he was coaching. And now Clemson has the state-of-the-art NIL facility. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Dabo Swinney fan, but I'm like, come on, man. Anyway.
Talking to hear himself talking.
He gives you that all shucks. You're like, he ain't talking about nothing. I'm sorry, Vinny. You had a question, Vinny. I interrupted you. I apologize.
I think I was watching South Carolina. I was waiting for the last episode of the Southern Hoops, and South Carolina and LSU were playing in softball, and I was surprised that South Carolina wasn't ranked because, look, the SEC, baseball is ridiculous. Softball, everybody's almost ranked. South Carolina's got a super strong record, but I guess they didn't. Maybe they kind of beat up on some teams to kind of get that record, and then they're kind of riding that momentum in the SEC play again.
Yeah, I think that might be. I think also they didn't have a great year last year. I don't know for sure, but I think they maybe struggled a little bit last year. So that might have played into it too. I don't admittedly know a lot about our softball team, but I hope that they're having a better season this year. The baseball team's doing really well, so it would be fun if softball was good too.
Because the baseball team won back-to-back. Is that right? A few years ago? Am I remembering that correctly?
Baseball in 2010 and 2011 was back-to-back championships.
I think one of those years they beat an SEC team. It's ridiculous. I tell folks all the time from around the country, Katie, you're here in the Midwest, and we hear a lot of blah, 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 Big 10, blah, 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 Big 12. And I'm like, look, man, in everything, if you're competitive in the SEC, chances are you're competitive on the national level as well. So I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Yes.
I will say it's sad. Northwestern, obviously my other alma mater, their baseball team hasn't won a game yet. They were 0-12 last I looked.
Oh.
And like some of them were like 20-5 losses. So I don't know. I haven't watched any of them, but I'm very sad for them.
That's hard.
Speaking of Northwestern, they're in the tournament, the men's tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I saw something today that made me feel old. You remember the crying Northwestern kid, Vinny?
Yeah.
He's a freshman in college. What is going is going on? Like that was just like 2 years ago. What are we doing?
Man, it's ridiculous. Yeah, all the gifs and memes. I tend to just keep them that age, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that was 14 years ago when that." Oh, he's got a kid.
Yeah, you mean gifs?
Is it gifs? I prefer to say gifs. I thought it was gifs. It is gifs.
Kid, you're a young person. Is it gifs or gifs?
I say GIF.
Okay,
Grandpa Vinny got them gifs. Like this ain't peanut butter anyway. So, Katie, do you fill out a men's bracket? Are you do you research the men's bracket, and how do you fill it out if you do?
I do fill it out. I fill it out basically based on teams I like or don't like. I always pick a couple upsets, and sometimes I get lucky and they're the upsets that happen, and sometimes they're not at all the upsets that happen. Northwestern, I mean, obviously I love them, but I did not pick them to go super far. I pick based on teams like if I have a sibling or a cousin or someone who went somewhere, I might pick the team, or I just like do best guess. I usually fill out like 3 different brackets that are like 94% the same, but with like one other upset here or there. So I can like try to get that wherever I can. I'm not super good at bracketology or figuring it out. I fill them out because it's fun, and like we do a pool at work and stuff, so that's fun. But I do not have any like science behind it really, other than like feelings while I'm filling it out.
That's basically the best way to go, because anybody that sits down like, well, this team won the MAC by 7. That nobody's doing that. That it doesn't matter. Well, that being said,
I like the fact that she said I have no science, but yet she said they're all 94% the same. Not 90 or 95, 94% the same, and then I tweak an upset. I like how you put just a random percentage in there. You didn't round it to a 5, 94%.
You're such an old person, Vinny. So who do you have go? Hey, this is a pro Katie podcast. I think we've been very much on the record for that.
I just poked her a little bit about her 94%. That's it.
I was never that good at math, so.
I did not understand there would be math on this.
Right, my fault. My bad.
So who do you have going to Houston, right, Vinny? Houston in the Final Four?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who do you have going to the Final Four in any one of your brackets?
I think I have Kansas, Alabama, and I don't remember the other two. My brother went to Kansas and my cousin went to Alabama. So I was like, okay, we have the family thing settled. I picked Kansas, so shout out to my brother, even though I don't really like Kansas. I did pick them only because Alabama almost lost to South Carolina, and South Carolina was really bad this year. So I thought if you could almost lose to us, I don't know that you can go all the way. I hope the Alabama fans don't hear that, because they got really mad at me in my Twitter mentions one day. So I'm sorry, Alabama fans, but I picked Kansas to go all the way.
And we did lose to y'all, so yeah.
Yeah, that Look, man, Vinny and I talked about this, Kentucky men's basketball being what it is. And there are a bunch of SEC teams. I can't remember any games, whether we win or lose. Like, I think we said Ole Miss, Vinny. Like, I don't remember any Ole Miss games ever.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't remember. But South Carolina, there's always a game. There's a Devin Downey game, right? And there was
Melvin Watson and back in, 97? BJ Mackey. Yeah.
This is probably before your time, Katie. This was
97, I think.
97, and Kentucky had won like 50 straight senior nights. And South Carolina comes to town, and I'm at the game. I'm like, we don't lose on senior night. And I'm like, second half, I'm like, we might actually lose on senior night. This is how bad it got. Rick Pitino got tossed. And people are like, I can't believe we lost to South Carolina. So there's like 3 or 4 of those games. I'm like, I can't believe we lost. So I do remember South Carolina games.
Yo, that's how they do us.
And they're always hollering about the Cox. I'm going to keep saying that because it's fun to say.
Why do you think I'm always tweeting it? It's fun to
say. She has logical words there. That's you can't argue.
Absolutely. So South Carolina baseball, I know you're covering them for the for your site. So I know we got the chicken dingers and all that stuff. So is that going to be a tough matchup for the baseball Cats whenever they play? I think later in the season.
Hey, we rolling right now. We rolling.
Best record before SEC play since 2012, but
we might have something for them this year.
I don't know, man. You still got to go through the SEC.
I know. Stack wins while we can. Stack wins while we can.
And this is what I tell people when it comes to SEC baseball. Even Vanderbilt won a national championship.
They did.
And they don't win championships in nothing. Except
they
spelling
were good
bees
for like a
like
few years. They had like a wave for a little while. They were
Yeah.
right after South Carolina. That I had kind of liked Vanderbilt, and then South Carolina got bad, and Vanderbilt like got good, and then I didn't like them anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not a Vanderbilt fan, just on general principle. They think they're smarter than the rest of us, Vinny. But go ahead.
Yeah, South Carolina is I think 17-1 right now. Our only loss was to Clemson, which was a bummer. But then we won the series. We bounced back. We won both other games against them, so it was okay. And I think we lead the nation in home runs right now. They had a lot of home runs. We had 3 grand slams just this weekend. So they hit a lot of home runs, which I like because I like home runs and do not. They used to do a bunch of like bunting, which I don't like. So it's been really fun to watch, and it has been more successful than it had been the past couple of years, which I think the fan base appreciates since baseball was kind of our thing and people got used to us being really good. And then it fell off for a little while. But we've had a couple of transfers who have come in and played really well, and at least 1 or 2 freshmen who have really been good also. So far, so good on baseball. But yeah, obviously with the SEC starting, the competition is a little different. Like we played Presbyterian the other day, and we're playing Georgia this weekend. So a little bit different in terms of competition there.
So the thing, you play Clemson in a series, which is different than we do. We play Louisville once at Louisville, once at Lexington, and it's 2 or 3 weeks in between. You get a 3-game series with your rival, so that's kind of neat.
They do 1 game at Clemson, 1 game in Columbia, and then 1 on a neutral field. So like they try to get it. Everyone can see and everyone can go. And yeah, last year we lost the series. I know. This year though, we lost in Clemson this year, but then won the neutral site and the Columbia game.
And is that back to back to back over like a weekend?
Yeah, so it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, cool. Wow.
What's the neutral field?
They played it in Greenville this year.
Which is pretty close to Clemson though, right?
Yes, they play. I think it's at the minor league where the Boston Red Sox minor league team plays. The Greenville Drive is there. I think that's where they play.
See, cool. And South Carolina's got to do like we do. You play in the SEC, then you've got an ACC rival that's not nearly as good as they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's the burden that the Gamecocks and the Wildcats share.
And Kentucky's going to drive you crazy because right now this team bunts a lot, and they do a lot of that stuff that you don't like. So maybe Kentucky's going to get on your nerves when they play South Carolina.
But here's the highlight in the fall, Vinny. Iowa and Northwestern are going to be playing at Wrigley Field. So it could be a 3-2 game. Who knows? Anything's on the table. I know we ain't going to see a lot of touchdowns.
The Cubs might score more runs in one game, and I don't know that the Cubs are going to be very good, but they are possibly going to have higher scoring games than Northwestern Iowa.
Yes, it's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah. Are y'all going down there for that?
Down there, I forgot you're from South. Everything's down there, but no.
Well, I mean,
Chicago's more northern than Iowa.
Oh,
slightly.
My fault. Y'all going up there for that?
We might. We're gonna try to go to a Cubs game. We're gonna try to go to this football game. We're gonna try. We like Chicago.
I live down the street from Wrigley, so I might wander over, but it might be a painful game. So I might just
I almost called you when I was stuck in Chicago overnight. I missed a flight, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm spending $500 to stay at the Marriott right here. Like somebody I know got a couch, but anyway.
I know that's right. What an adventure you had.
Yeah, flying. Anyway. But Katie, we don't want to keep you. We want to appreciate you for coming on and talking a little bit about basketball, a little bit about baseball, and everything in between. And we want to always give you the opportunity to holler about the Cox because we know we like to do that. And again, we are a very pro Katie podcast. Probably the most pro Katie podcast out there, I would say.
Because Katie Dzwierzynski, your Katie, my Katie. I think Jack Pilgrim's wife is named Katie when we've had him on. So
yeah, well, I don't know her, but I know.
Yeah. I mean, but we know him, and he got him a Katie.
I mean, if you got to look, if you're Team Katie, then that's okay with me.
Yeah.
The best team to be.
That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, man, I'm having trouble dating. Find you a Katie. Like that solved my problem.
There you go.
How good is a Katie? I moved to the middle of nowhere.
It's that simple.
With these 18-degree days and high winds and snow, I'm over it.
This weather is so bad.
The Midwest is depressing, Vinny.
It's bad. It's just sad and bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, Katie Dzwierzynski, thank you so much for always coming on. Like I said, you're moving up the list of. I have to do some calculating. She's moving up the list on guest appearances, Vinny.
Yeah, she is probably leader of the pack.
I would say so, because like I said, there's enough time between the Bat Cats and the Gamecocks playing baseball, so hopefully there won't be another embarrassing loss. After this visit, because then we gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, we gotta get revenge on all these Cocks.
Well, we didn't have a round last year when the Kentucky women last team to take down South Carolina, so I think there might be something to that.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
But anyway, Katie, thank you so much for joining us. Always fun. We appreciate it. Where can folks find you out on the interwebs?
On Twitter, you can read me hollering about the Cocks at KDZWIERZYNSKI. And you can read me slightly less hollering, but still talking about the Gamecocks at Garnet and Black Attack, which is at GABATTACK.
So Garnet, it's not Maroon?
It's Garnet. Maroon is, I think, like Mississippi State. South Carolina's Garnet.
I don't think about Mississippi State. They are one of my least favorite. They're not quite Tennessee, but they are my least. I only enjoy maybe 4 or 5 SEC teams. But anyway, that's me being bitter about, Anyway,
I
Katie,
kind of
thank
forget
you.
Mississippi State exists, honestly. So
I would love to, except we always play them in football, and they always have those cowbells.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
if
true.
you need the cowbells to be memorable, then I'm not respecting you at all. Anyway,
that's right.
Katie, always a good time. Thank you so much for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. And we'd like to see South Carolina bring another championship back to the SEC.
Yes. I'm pulling for them.
Thank you. I hope they do that. And thank you for having me on to yet again holler about the Cocks. I think I got it in there enough now. I think that 5 times is good. Well, I think we've hollered.
We'll tweet it out. We'll tweet it out. Hey, guess who was hollering about the Cocks?
Please do.
But Katie,
people tweet that at me a lot, actually. They'll just tweet like hollering at me. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad it's spreading.
Your brand is strong out there on the Twitter streets.
It is.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Have a good night.
Thanks,
we appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you, Katie.
Bye.
See you. Man, the spectacular, the bracket extravaganza, the bracket bash. Success, man. 4 guests penciled in and 4 guests came on.
They all killed it. But again, my final 4. This is what I got. My final 4. Let's hammer this out. I've actually got Baylor in the South. I've got Texas in the Midwest. I've got Gonzaga in the West. And in the East, I've got your 8-time NCAA champion, University of Kentucky Wildcats. I got to win the whole thing. Maybe I'm a homer. I am not filling out a bracket that another team's going to beat Kentucky. Never going to happen. And the time they're not in it, I don't fill one out. So, no.
I always hope for that, even though I don't always fill that out. So I just kind of got crazy. I got Baylor, Duke, Miami, and Kansas, even though Miami's big man is out like we talked about. And I got Miami taking down Duke. Now, I always hope Kentucky wins every time. Just because I fill my bracket out a little differently don't mean I'm hoping I'm not going to be wrong. I'm hoping I'm going to be wrong
Right.
every time.
And I say this every year. That's just me. I can't write because I will do whatever Simone Biles mental gymnastics it takes to get Kentucky to the championship.
Hey, yeah, you do like Anthony Davis. It's Kentucky all the way. I get it. Y'all.
And then I work backwards. That's
Yeah.
how I do it. That's how I do it, man. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be, this is a wide open tournament. I think at some point I saw that Houston was the favorite, but had the worst odds of any favorite going in the tournament going back some years. So even Vegas doesn't really know.
No, there's no way they could know. I mean, if you like, you tell Kevin Hale of Round of Shots, watch more football.
Right.
People need to. If people did step away from Kentucky and watch more other college basketball, there's no way anybody can know. I don't know. Vegas can't know as much as they are in the know. They can't even know this year.
Right. And my thing about that is, Kentucky's flawed, right? Like, it is a team. But looking around the landscape, if Kansas is a 1 seed, we didn't really lose to Kansas that bad. Like, I mean, and I know the Alabama game got out of hand when Kentucky was playing, but as Cal said after the Vanderbilt game, we can beat anybody, but we can also lose to anybody.
Yeah.
And that's something you can put on just about every team, because every team's got an ugly loss or a game where you're like, what is that about? So I'm ready to strap in and I love the Thursday and Friday of the tournament. For me, it's the best sports day on the calendar because you go from noon until midnight.
Yes.
And it's just
it's glorious.
It's glorious. It's a bunch of different teams. It's teams you never thought about. I love the West Coast mascots because, you got a bunch of tigers and wildcats and eagles and all that stuff. Then you get to the Mississippi. Now you got the anteaters. Now you got, even UCLA's the Bruins. Like, Arizona being the Wildcats may be the only, blah mascot west of the Mississippi, right? Yeah. The Jayhawks are different, right? The Oregon Ducks, all that kind of USC Trojans, like all that kind of stuff. So it's fun. It's great. I love it. Because Thursday through Sunday, that's where you get your upsets, right? That's the fodder for that montage like Adam was talking about. And then starting next weekend, all right, now we about the championship level stuff, right? And so do I think, honestly, that Kentucky can beat Providence? I do. I think this is a game Kentucky can win. I will say it's a game they should win because, again, Oscar being named All-American this year, the first back-to-back All-American since Tayshaun Prince, talking about, a long time ago. For him, I just don't want him to have all that and no tournament wins.
Yeah.
If he can turn around and get this team to the Sweet 16, that'll be awesome. Yeah. That to me is a win.
Yeah.
And it's not about, you accepted mediocrity. No, it's like you lose to South Carolina at home. And even like we talked about with Randy, even the biggest sunshine pumpers were like, I don't know about this. Like, I tweeted a whole thread about it. We talked about it on here. Like, hey, losing South Carolina, the way they lost, that's a situation where it's like, I don't know, right? And so to rebound from that, as you pointed out, I think last week, starting 1-3 in the SEC and still getting to a 3 seed, you can look at progress over the season. And, the jury's still out on how people are going to feel about this team. This team goes to the Sweet 16, again, house money. Like I pointed out with Randy, talked about it, those great runs, and we talk about the 2011, 2014 runs, just win the first game. Just win the first game. And then you just go with it. Because I think with the Aaron Harrison, and I do think that, folks with Aaron, I don't understand any other backcourt did what the Harrisons do, they're beloved. I don't know what the Harrisons did to folks where they're just not universally beloved. Every time I tweet about the Harrisons, it's like, well, they lost. And I'm like, back-to-back Final Fours for a backcourt is pretty good. A runner-up finish and 38-1 is pretty good. Anyway, but my point was in 2014, again, I watched a little bit of the there's some clips going around of the Wichita State game, which is probably, I'm going to put out there, probably the best second round game in the tournament history. I know it's the best early game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But then I was sitting here thinking, like, that's right, they played Kansas State before that, and that game was utterly remarkable. I just remember 2014 losing to Florida in the championship game of the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just get one win. You know, your redemption arc, you made the tournament, just get one win, and I'm cool. And so talking to fans of other teams and even some of our own fans, there was no indications that we were going to play as well as we did against Wichita State. None.
Yeah.
And that game was high level from the jump. That Clay Anthony Earl, that Fred Van Vliet, and the white dude with the hair, you know what I'm talking about?
One-headed dude,
Oh, because remember AD dunked on him when they got to the NBA. Ron something, it'll come to me.
Yeah.
There was nothing but a switch got flipped, right? And so, yes, it was great. You know, Brandon Knight dotting Aaron Craft's eye, but that Princeton, Harvard, Ivy League game, I can't even remember, to be honest with you. Completely unremarkable. And sometimes those unremarkable games lead to other things.
That's true.
You know, sometimes you lose the next game, but sometimes, because I think some site, the up to no good or whatever, ranking first round games. I'm like, I cannot remember like first round games. What?
No.
Like, I know you ain't got no first round games for nights because I can't even pay attention. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Most of those games were blowouts.
Anyway.
Yeah,
that's some digging right there.
Yeah, like wait till you get the second round and there's just a bunch of Utah games. Anyway,
that's right.
Thanks to all of our guests for coming on to the extravaganza. Leading off with JR, who always brings it. Randy always brings it. My good man, my good friend, Adam Jacobi, Mama B's, one of Mama B's favorites. So got to give him some love. And Katie Dzwierzynski coming in to talk about South Carolina and holler about the Cox a little bit. But always fun, Benny.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you getting everybody and everybody taking time to hop on here. So let's kick back and enjoy these next 4 days. Like you said, the best 4 days of the year from a calendar standpoint, jam-packed wall-to-wall basketball. Y'all can get this on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll put it up. Go to bs3tvlive.com and listen on and watch on Roku. And we'll be back next week to digest and talk about everything that's happened. Talk about a little NFL free agency. We'll talk about your Niners making moves. We didn't even get to that. My Cowboys making some moves. We're working all that in next week. And
yeah, Zeke gone, man.
Gone.
How you feel about that real quick? Like, Zeke gone, man. Like,
you kind of saw it was coming. I kept, for the past 2 or 3 years, I kept thinking, well, maybe he can get it back.
hey,
Maybe
the wheels
he can
fall
get it back.
off of
But
your
it
running
was,
back, man. You don't get them back. They don't have that bounce back.
And
But
I think it was PFF put out a tweet. Prime Zeke was so much fun to watch. You see how lean he was. He had that burst. He would get the ball, and if the hole wasn't there, he was cutting and hitting, and he was hurdling people, and it was feed Zeke. Those first 4 or 5 years, when him and Dak first kind of entrenched themselves as the starters, it was a lot of good plays he made, but like you said, once you lose it at that position,
But
And-
his last play as a Cowboy is snapping the ball and getting blowed up.
Oh boy.
You
Yeah.
should. Hey, that was floating around on 49ers Twitter today. I gotta find it. I try to be nice to you, but somebody put Boys to Men over it, and I think with me to men. And there's a clip of that game, and then last year's game, they scrambling.
Man.
I'll take with me the memories. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit next week when free agency shakes it out. But
that's right.
Hey.
And Fairleigh Dickinson's up 54-40. So come on, Coach Tobin. Get on in here and finish this off, and
we're all knights when it comes to that, man.
And put up a game plan for Zach Edey after you beat Texas Southern. Come on, baby.
Let's go, baby. All right. Always good, Vinny.
Hey, appreciate you. We'll see everybody next week. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. TP and I are out.